US President Joe Biden ordered the transfer of evidence of Russian war crimes in Ukraine to the International Criminal Court, the New York Times reported.
American intelligence agencies are said to have gathered information including details about decisions by Russian officials to deliberately strike civilian infrastructure in Ukraine and forcibly deport thousands of Ukrainian children from occupied territory. Already they have shared some of that evidence with Ukrainian prosecutors, but had refrained from doing so with The Hague, from the New York Times publication with reference to anonymous American officials.
According to the New York Times, Pentagon chief Lloyd Austin was against President Joe Biden's decision, while U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and many prominent lawmakers were in favor of helping the court investigate. The Pentagon has resisted cooperating with the Hague Court for fear that it could open the way to a politicized prosecution of U.S. military personnel abroad. The White House declined to publicly discuss specific details of cooperation with The Hague.
With regard specifically to the International Criminal Court, we are not going to discuss the specific details of cooperation, which is in line with the practice of the court, which considers requests for cooperation on confidential basis. Andrew Watson, U.S. National Security Council spokesperson, in an interview with the New York Times.
As early as last year, Congress authorized the United States to share critical war crimes evidence and intelligence with the International Criminal Court by law, but the Pentagon was in no hurry to take advantage of this permission. At the same time, the administration of US President Joe Biden expressed official support for the Hague Court after the extradition warrants for the arrest of Russian President Putin and the Presidential Commissioner for Children's Rights Lvova Belova.
Perhaps some more satellite imaginary intelligence data will be transmitted by the United States, which is evidence of crimes committed such as the killing of civilians, attacks on civilian infrastructure. Therefore, I believe that the United States will only strengthen the transfer of a wider mass of evidence. This is certainly a signal for the Russian Federation that no one will negotiate with them from the current vertical of power.
Many congressmen publicly supported the White House's decision to start cooperating with the International Criminal Court. In particular, the Democrat and chairman of the U.S. Senate Foreign Affairs Committee, Robert Menendez, in a published letter addressed to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, called on the White House administration to facilitate the investigation into the illegal deportation of Ukrainian children. And Illinois Senator Dick Durbin and Republican Lindsey Graham, leading lawmakers of the Judiciary Committee, in a joint statement backed Biden's decision to hand over evidence of Russian war crimes to The Hague.
The United States is doing everything it can to bring those responsible for the atrocities in Ukraine to justice. This is to help our Ukrainian friends and send a clear message to Putin. The United States will not tolerate these heinous crimes, from the publication of the New York Times.
So far, the White House has not publicly announced a change in U.S. policy regarding facilitating the investigation of the International Criminal Court, but has already begun to inform members of the U.S. Congress about its decision, writes the New York Times. Reported by Roman Smoler, Krystyna Dombrovska, UATV News.